Alrighty. So, everything sweet. Kicking off with banana blondies. So, for these ones, oh dear, we're out of our recipe. We'll jump back in. For these ones, you guys can't see my screen great, but I'll talk you through what's happening. So, for these, preheat our oven to 180 degrees. Mine is on. We need to line a basin sides of a square cake tin with baking paper. Mine is already done. And now we use Brazil nuts. Now, if you've ever cooked with me, you know I throw in lots of substitute. I don't have Brazil nuts. I think that walnuts would go really nice in this as well, but I'm just using cashews because it's what I have. Or macadamias would be beautiful as well. It would be a little bit more expensive to make with macadamias, but they would be worth it, I'm sure. These are just some cashews going in mine. About 80 grams, close enough. Pop our lid on, measuring cup goes in, and we're going to just give these a quick chop. All right, now, to get these out, I need a spatula. And to get these out, so that was just to chop them up. Give them a really rough chop. I love how quick the Thermomix is. 2 seconds, all chopped up. Get those out. And don't worry about cleaning your bowl, just keep on going. 115 grams of unsalted butter. Now, I'm a busy person. I don't have much time, and when I'm in the kitchen, I need things to happen really, really fast, which is why there's 2 Thermomixes on my bench. So when it comes to prepping ahead, things like this will absolutely save my life, and that is just having my butter already cut up. Oops, you can't see it very well. There. Sounds like something really silly, but it means that I can literally just break pieces off, and I'm not trying. It's another thing I don't need to get out. I don't need to get out my knife. I don't need to cut it up. My kids can just throw it in pieces. It just makes my cooking a little bit quicker and easier. Now, 230 grams of light brown sugar, or whatever brown sugar you have in your cupboard. If you do not have brown sugar and you have molasses, now I'm going to guess if you don't have brown sugar, you probably don't have molasses in the cupboard, but buying a bit of molasses wouldn't hurt, because if you don't have brown sugar, you can pop some raw sugar in your Thermomix and some molasses, and you can mill it down, or I prefer to mill my sugar to a nice sugar consistency first, and then add my molasses in and mix it about speed 6. You'll create brown sugar. It is really, really cool. How much molasses you put in is how dark your brown sugar will go. If you go too far, it gets a bit sticky. So keep an eye on it. And this is just going to melt down now. So 2 minutes, 60 degrees, 3 minutes, sorry, and that's going to melt down. So yeah, brown sugar, molasses and raw sugar in your Thermomix, and you can make yourself brown sugar. It is a really, really good thing just to have on hand. Sometimes I run out of brown sugar, and depending on the recipe, sometimes I even just pop in my raw sugar and then a little splash of molasses on top. Once you get to know your ratios, and this is what I have, it's just from the supermarket, it's just a jar of molasses. But if I have this in my cupboard, it lasts for ages, doesn't go off until the end of next year, so it lasts forever, but it just means that when I get stuck, I can quickly make some brown sugar, and it only takes me a minute. All right, so our blondies are just warming up. So our butter is in here, our brown sugar is in here. Clicking the little preview button. The next thing I need is some plain flour. So plain flour is here, ready to go in. I'm going to need 2 bananas in pieces. Here are my 2 bananas. Now, you know, you've all heard people say, you might even be one of those people yourself, that say you keep your bananas to make banana bread and then they never turn into banana bread and you end up with just rotten bananas that you throw out. When you have a Thermomix, that should not be a problem. Making things like banana bread is so quick and easy with Thermi. If you have not done it, please do it. It will honestly take you 2 minutes and you'll have your banana bread in the oven. But there's also recipes like this. If you have, my bananas are beautiful. They only came today. But if you had older bananas, it's going to use up 2 old bananas and it's going to make not just a nice snack, but an absolute delicious one. And this one you could serve with a bit of ice cream or cream and jazz it up for a dessert or an afternoon tea. But if you get called to your friend's house for morning tea, you could turn up with a little plate of blondies as well. There's lots you can do with it. Mine will even make its way into some of the kids' lunch boxes. Not too unhealthy. Got a fair bit of sugar in it, but it's not too bad. Next thing pop in is an egg. So I have my egg here ready to go. A little bit of vanilla, a bit of sea salt. Now, I'm not adding sea salt in because I started with salted butter. So I tend to just buy salted butter for all of my baking, and then I leave the salt out when it asks for it. I'm going to mix that together for 15 seconds, scrape it down, give it another mix, add in some white chocolate, and the rest of my nuts. They all go in to stay nice and chunky. They have a mix there on reverse to keep them chunky, and I pop it into a tin. So really quick recipe. It's going to take like 5 minutes from start to finish. It'll be in the oven. All right, what do we got? Decadent chocolate brownies are also amazing. Oh, that sounds good. Oh dear, I'm out. Hang on. All right. And the recipe above for the blondie. So Shannon's put this blondie recipe in the chat. Can I make molasses in the Thermomix? I'm actually not sure. Give me 1 second here. I'm quickly looking for these brownie recipes. I'll pop it in the chat. I don't know, Andrew. That is not a question that I know. I will need to find out for you. I'm not sure. I don't imagine so, but that doesn't mean you can't. Just means that I don't imagine it. So I'm not sure. But here is our recipe. I'm just popping it into the chat. Go and make those brownies. They are phenomenal. I made them for a little party on the weekend. Most of my friends, I've been doing Thermomix now for 4.5 years. Most of my friends have a Thermi. They've collected one along the way. They all asked for the recipe and they all went home and cooked it that afternoon. So it's a good brownie recipe. It's not just me that thinks so. All right, so in here, oh, yum. That is our butter and our brown sugar. Look how thick that is. Delicious. All right, sugary, fatty goodness, but it will be good. 180 grams of plain flour. So it's not an awful lot of flour going into these. And that is the secret to really nice fudgy brownies, that they're not a lot of flour. And usually not much raising. So this is just plain flour. The other recipe, I think, is also just plain flour with no raising, so keep them really fudgy. Popping our bananas in, just broken into pieces. This is approximately 200 grams. I'm a little bit short. I could probably put in a third one, but I'm not going to worry. 1 big egg. 1.5 teaspoon of vanilla. I'll put in about that much. Vanilla is one of those things you can leave out of your recipes, but I was always told that it makes it a little bit more special if you put it in. This one here is just a store-bought vanilla extract because I ran out. But if you get a chance to get your hands on some vanilla pods, make yourself another sweet. Make yourself the vanilla bean paste off cookie dough. It is amazing. It uses your vanilla pods. It is so delicious, and you can just put a teaspoon of that in instead of your vanilla extract. It tastes even better. It is next level. If you're making anything like a vanilla ice cream or something, you absolutely have to make it. It is fantastic. All right, let's scrape this down. It is such a nice mix. Yum. All right. Lid on and another quick mix. Now I'm going to pop in my chocolate chips. I use lots of chocolate when it comes to cooking. So if you're shopping at the supermarket, stock up when they're on sale. If you can see choc chips half price in a brand that you like, get them while they're cheap. Buy a few packets of them. For me, I actually go out to our wholesalers and I buy like 1 or 2 kilos of all of the chocolate I like. Just at a wholesale price, so it's a little bit cheaper. Because I cook with it in lots of things. And I love to just have choc chips on hand. I made the kids some banana breads yesterday. The day before. They were banana bread with a hidden zucchini in them. They were really nice. But I just put a few choc chips on a few of them on the top. It just makes them eat them more. The choc chips are a really cool thing to put in. These are our reserve nuts. And we're going to mix that on reverse. This is now using the blunt side of the blade so that these don't get all chopped up and just turn into mush. They're going to stay nice and chunky. We're going to grab our pan. This is not a flash tin. It is just an old square baking tin. I'm going to make them this size tonight and then see if they would work in a sliced tin. The sliced tin might be a little bit too big. But that is our mix. Just a nice sticky mixture. So I'm going to throw this now into the pan. Have any of you guys had blondies before? Have you had blondies, or is this something brand new to you? There is also, no, you haven't. Oh, these are recipes you need to make. Now, if you like sweets, but you are a little health conscious, there are blondies in our Sam Wood collection, which are relatively healthy. They're not, they're still sweet, but they are pretty healthy. You can, of course, add chocolate and things to them, but they are pretty good on their own. They've got pretty limited sugar and things in them, but they are still a pretty good recipe. They're just on the healthier side, which is always nice. If you're wanting to try something that isn't quite so bad for your waistline, they are definitely ones to make, but these ones will be delicious. I'm going to spread these out a little bit. It is a super sticky mixture. You can see here on the bench. Spread it out a little bit. And then we're going to bake these for 20 to 25 minutes. So you should get to see the end result, hopefully, before we jump off. All right. Now throw those in the oven. Set my timer because I always forget when I'm on Zoom. All right, so next thing. Now, I wanted to make something tonight that isn't, and I have a dirty Thermomix bowl. Isn't that always handy? Let me tip this one out. I wanted to make something tonight that isn't an entire recipe. It is a component of a recipe, but it is a sweet that will become really, really handy if you can make this and have it on hand. And often I find that lots of people have never made it before. So I thought, let's do it. It is something that you use in lots of your sweet baking. As I was looking for things to cook tonight, I was going, man, I need condensed milk. That's what we're going to make. All right. What we're going to use for this, there is a little recipe here on Cookie Doo. We get out of our brownies and we'll search Cookie Doo. Sweetened condensed milk. This will blow your mind if you have not done it before. It is so cool. This is like one of those points where you just go, oh my gosh, the Thermomix can literally do anything. So you know what a can of condensed milk is like when you get it from the shops. It's thick and it's rich. It is just beautiful. This comes out exactly the same. So it is butter, water, raw sugar, milk powder, a pinch of salt. Again, I'll use salted butter and won't worry about the pinch of salt. And that's all that you need. So first of all, we get our jar ready. Mine's there ready to go. 40 grams of unsalted butter. So again, having my little cubes of butter cut up means I can just throw them in. I'm not far off 40. 125 grams of water. At Christmas time, I always make little hampers for different people, for preschool teachers and all of that sort of thing, and for family. And condensed milk, I always need for my fudges and things like that. So I do double batches. And I always spend late nights leading up to Christmas making lots of condensed milk to set all my fudges and things like that. Alrighty. What have we got? Yes, oh, cool. So you made this today, Elizabeth. That is awesome. Has anybody else made condensed milk in their Thermomix before? Am I just showing you old tricks, or is this new for some of you? Some of you have. No, some of you haven't. Okay, good. So my steaming basket is on the top. This just heats up for 3 minutes. So 2.5 minutes to go. And then we pop in our raw sugar. So it's really simple ingredients. We'll pop in our raw sugar and milk powder. and we're going to leave our salt out. That's all. We throw it all in together. We basically give it a super high-speed blend for 30 seconds. And then it's ready to go. And it will be a beautiful, beautiful consistency when it is done. So super, super handy to be able to make. There is a caramel slice recipe on Cookie Dough. It is called a salted caramel slice. If you are looking for a sweet to make, absolutely make it. It is so yummy. But there is also a recipe called the OMG caramel slice. One of our consultants down in Tasmania developed a recipe. She called it OMG. It was so good. It is a caramel slice that has been around for years. She's actually developed it into an ebook, and there is a bunch of recipes in there now. So you buy the ebook. It isn't a free recipe. But it is absolutely amazing. I make it for a lot. I make it too much. But it is so yummy. It is full of all sorts of bad things. It is certainly not a healthy recipe, but it is absolutely decadent. We recently had a fundraiser at school and we needed a cake stall. I made 2 big batches of caramel slice. There was, I think, about 50 or 60 pieces of slice that they sold, and they rang me at lunchtime and said, we sold out of it so quickly, and we've had people all day coming back asking for more. So it is absolutely awesome. I make it at lots of things, but if you are looking for a slice recipe, a caramel slice recipe that will blow your minds, the Cookie Dough one is great. Don't get me wrong. It's a salted caramel slice, but go and have a look for OMG caramel slice. Her name is Ali Hammond, and it is amazing. And there's some other recipes in there. I think she has some caramel macadamia biscuits or slices and a few other things, but absolutely incredible. But honestly, buy her ebook. It doesn't cost very much, but it is a game changer. Absolutely phenomenal. All right, that is all we do for this. So we heat our butter and our water up, and this is just super, super, super hot now. It's just a really hot liquid. Now we put in our raw sugar. This is one of those sweet basics. You all have to go and make this now if you haven't before. And then you've got to find something to use it for. That's your mission for tonight. Fudges often use it. Some caramel slices use it. Can't even eat it just out of the jar. Don't tell anybody that, but it's really good. All right, milk powder, 110 grams of milk powder. Hopefully I have enough in here. I'll be pretty close, very close. All right. Leave our salt out. Now we pop our lid on. Measuring cup in. Next. This is going to be noisy. My sound will cut out, so I'll see you in 30 seconds. All right, and we are done. So we scrape this down the side. Here is my jar. This will be a little bit big, but it'll do the job. Now it's a little bit runny now. It will thicken up as it cools. I just need a new spatula, one that isn't dirty. So here, this is our condensed milk. I'll get this in a way you guys can see it. Just going to tip it in. That might not do it justice. Let me bring the camera in a little bit. It is a little bit runny when it first is made because it's still super hot, but by the time it cools, it is nice and thick, just like it's come out of a can. And there it is. Sweetened condensed milk. Yum. Does anybody buy this at the shop? Is it something that you buy and use, or is it not? Some of you do. You can absolutely double this batch. This makes, let me get the number right. When you buy a can of condensed milk, you buy like a small, they usually come in a small can. And I think they're about, someone correct me if this is wrong, maybe 295 grams or maybe 195 grams. They're somewhere around that. They're always a funny number, but they're all about the same size, that smallish can. And this makes exactly that much. Because I've weighed it out before. I've needed a recipe where I've needed a can of condensed milk, and it's exactly the same amount. Now, you might not, no one might know the grams, but go and have a look when you see it next at the shop. But it's a can of condensed milk. So if you make this batch, it'll make just that amount, and you can double it if you need more. But that is it. You might be able to see it even setting a little bit more in there, and that will just set as it cools. Now, the last thing might be $3.95. It's whatever the little like standard cans of Nestle condensed milk are. That's about what this makes. So it's the same sort of amount. All right. So last thing we're going to make is custard, but I'm going to make it with a little twist. I'm going to use thickening mode, use the TM6 recipe, and I'm going to add something in at the end to make it a little bit more fun. So I'm just going to search in here for custard. Now we have a recipe in here called Harlequin custard. This was something actually developed by Matt Sinclair, and it is really nice. We also have brandy custard for when it comes to things like Christmas. So go with your Christmas pudding. I'm going to give it a little bit more information so I get a more direct recipe. There we go. Oops, not that one. Here we go. Custard for the TM6. Start cooking. Now, I think all of you guys have a TM6. If you don't, let me know. If you can pick the custard recipe with TM6 written after it, this will pull in the thickening mode, and it's a nicer, better consistency custard than the old TM5 one. If you just go in and do the old standard custard, it'll just cook it at 90 degrees rather than using this thickening mode, which is a bit more clever. Now, this one is a lemon custard. I'm going to change it. I'm going to leave my lemon out. I'm not going to throw lemon zest in. I am going to put sugar in, like it calls for, and I put mine away. That was a bit silly. Let me get it out again. I will put my sugar in. Now, this mills the sugar to begin with. My bowl is still dirty from my condensed milk, and I've made this a ton of times, so I'm not even going to worry about milling my sugar down. This gives you the option between 60 and 100 grams of sugar. I always go for less. I'm going to give it a little secret sweeten at the end. So I'm just skipping past that milling down section. I'm not going to worry about that step. I'm going to go straight in for 30 grams of corn flour. Now, this custard will go thick or runny depending on how much corn flour you put in and how much eggs you put in. So mine are beautiful fresh eggs, and they're a decent size. I'm going to leave the corn flour just back a little bit. But if you do the full amount of corn flour and full amount of eggs, I'm using too many eggs. That's okay. I have four small eggs instead of 2 big ones. So in we go. But if you do the full amount, it will come out as quite a thick custard. Almost one you can spoon out, which is really nice. So now we have 500 grams of milk going in. And custard is one of these things that you can really easily make dairy-free or anything like that. You can just swap this milk out for instance, maybe an almond milk. Yum, fresh milk, it absolutely is. That's why it's in a juice bottle. All right, going to click that and we're going to go. So this is our thickening mode. So you can't see my screen great, but over here I have a little picture of the thickening. The temperature is set for 80 degrees, and then the time at the moment is showing 10 minutes. What this is doing right now is using sensory cooking. It's assessing what's in the bowl, how much is in there, what sort of consistency is it, how long do I need to cook for, exactly what temperature range do I need to be in. And in a minute, it will take off and cook. And what it will give me at the end will be a beautiful thick custard. So this is the clever clogs of the Thermomix and of the thickening mode. The models prior to the TM6 don't have a mode like this. They don't have the ability to do that sensory cooking. So you're just having to set a temperature, a time, and a speed always, and it's not able to sort of assess itself and adjust. Now, this mode itself, when you're following a recipe like this, it'll be preset. So you just press go like I just did. But thickening mode also exists. If you go home and you slide across to all of your modes, you've got thickening over here or wherever it might be on your screen. Now, when you click on the mode itself, you have the option to toggle the temperature between 100 degrees and 80 degrees. The thickening is used for things like custard, curds, sauces, gravies, all of those sort of things. It's designed to take it from the plain ingredients right through to a nice thick sauce or whatever it might be in a consistency. So for anything that needs to get nice and hot but never reach that boiling or simmering temperature, these are things like custard, for instance, where we're using eggs and milk, but also anything that might be cream-based, something like a curd. If it heats that boiling temperature, it's going to be burnt. It's not going to be any good. If you were doing it on the stove and you let it start to get bubbles in it, it would be burning. It wouldn't be any good. So the Thermomix will control that, and it will only take it up to that 80, maybe a little bit over 80, up to 90 degrees, and that's it. But it will never get hot enough to burn. But some things like coulis, for instance, or some of your gravies, they need to hit that boiling temperature in order to set. So that is where you toggle that temperature to the 100-degree range. And that means it will take it up to the boiling range and it will keep it there while still cooking it really quickly and not burning it, but it will get it hot enough to actually set. So they're your toggles in the thickening mode. So as Shannon just mentioned in the chat, she makes gravy with hers all the time. So you don't need to follow a recipe to use the thickening mode. It is something where if you are a confident cook, or if you have a recipe that says, pop it all in the pan, keep on stirring it over a medium-high heat until it thickens, you can just do that in here. Just throw it all in and use that thickening mode and it will go. Same thing with custard. When I make it, I often don't follow the recipe. I just throw everything in. You might have just heard mine take off then. It's finished assessing and now it's going to cook for 7 minutes. So that is how your thickening mode works. Now, while this is all going, I'm going to jump into cookie dough really quickly. Bring it up here on the screen for you guys. Now, I can't see the chat while I'm in here, so if someone has a burning question or comment, please somebody come off mute and let me know. I will not know what is going on. All right, cookie dough. Now, these were our fudge brownies I was talking about before, and I posted in the chat. These were something that I wanted to make tonight, but I just ran out of time. These are one of those really cool sweet things that you can make in your Thermomix that will absolutely impress anybody. Who else makes things like this at home? Not many people. It is something that would usually be super time consuming. It still is not a really quick thing to make, but cut down so much in time using your Thermomix. These are really easy. You just make up a dough, and then you basically do a filling, pop it into the oven, and then a drizzle to go on at the end. They're relatively simple, but you get these beautiful Chelsea buns. I ran out of time to rest my dough and everything tonight, otherwise I would have done them. But if they are something that, you guys would like to see at some point, let me know. They are the sort of thing that could be really fun for a cook along as well. We could all make the dough beforehand and then jump on and assemble them together. There's lots of things that we could do with something like the Chelsea buns. These were another one that I had in mind. These are a chocolate coated coconut bars. Again, they needed a bit of fridge time and things, so it's going to be a bit tricky to pop onto Zoom. These will use your condensed milk. So if you're thinking about making condensed milk after you've seen me do it, these are one that will use it, but a really simple filling. Coconut, condensed milk, a bit of vanilla bean paste, or your vanilla essence like I use, and that will give you these beautiful, rich coconut bars. And then you temper the chocolate. I know we've had this question lots on Zoom about tempering chocolate and melting chocolate in the Thermomix. This here has a beautiful, really easy step-by-step recipe on how to properly temper chocolate. So it's worth doing if you are interested in sweets, in making, chocolate and tempering and all that sort of thing. These would be a really good one to make because you get to practice both sides of those. You can make your condensed milk beforehand, and then you will be an old hand by the end of it all. And these ones are a bit of a healthier side of it. They're a raw chocolate brownie, only using a few different things. The pulp of almond milk. So if you're somebody who can't have dairy, you have somebody in your house who can't have dairy, or you just prefer sometimes a plant-based milk, you can make your own almond milk in the Thermomix. It is so quick and easy. You blitz the almonds and the water, and then you can make some different variations that will make it sweeter, but basics are just almonds and water. You blend them at speed 9 or 10, and it completely blends together to make a beautiful milk. But if you want really fine milk with no pulp at all, you can just strain it off in a nut milk bag, and you get left with what feels like a commercial style almond milk. Now that almond pulp, what do you do with it? Something like this is the perfect thing. So that leftover almond pulp, some dates, some cocoa powder, a little bit of salt and vanilla. You basically mix these all together, roll them into balls, and they taste like little raw chocolate brownies. So these are some of my favorite sweets. They're things that I wanted to get in tonight, but couldn't quite get them there. But if we go over to Cookie Doo and we're having a little search around, you can, of course, just type in here, sweet. Cookie Doo knows what I've been talking about. These are another one that you must make. These cinnamon buns, absolutely amazing. Again, not something that most people are making at home, but absolutely incredible. You make your dough, you make up your filling, you roll them all together and make them. Very cool. But what we can do is toggle up here to collections. And then if we have a look up here at some sweet things, you get all these little cookbooks of sweets. So this is a really good place to start. If you're someone who doesn't make many sweets in your Thermomix, jump in here and have a look. There are so many different things. There's 80 recipes of all sorts of things like these basics, like jam and pastry, things that you just might not have ever thought of to make in your Thermomix. But they're those really, really good basics. If you have lots of oranges at this time of year, or oranges, kumquats, mandarins, limes, all that sort of a thing, make some marmalade jam. If you can't find the recipe you're after on Cookie Doo, jump across to the recipe community, and someone, I'm sure, will have popped in there a really nice marmalade or kumquat jam or something like that. You can follow that, or you can import it to your Cookie Doo and cook it through created recipes as well. But here's some beautiful sweets in here. Again, easy to do in your Thermomix and really nice. And there's things in here. I'm going to pull this one up because we have, where is it? We've made this one before on Zoom, which is why I didn't do it tonight. Now I won't be able to find it. I'm going to do a search for it instead. So don't keep you all looking. But it is called an apple and date cake. We made this once on Zoom. It is so quick and easy to put together, but it looks so nice. It is a beautiful cake, and you make a drizzle to go over the top of it, and it sort of soaks in. It has nuts over the top of it. It is absolutely delicious, and it is one of those things that you can just quick whip up, throw it in the oven, and then take it with you out to a friend's place, or when you have people over to your house, and they will just go, wow, this is like a bakery style cake. Where did you get this from? How did you do this? How did you have the time for this? And it's all just thanks to the Thermomix. It says an hour and a half because it has got quite a long cook time, 45 minutes, and then you've got to make the drizzle for the top. So it isn't a half an hour cake, but it isn't much hands-on time, and it is really, really good. So they're some of my favorites. Other things that are really fun are like last week where we made honeycomb. A few of you cooked along with us to make honeycomb. Things like your caramel sauces that you can make in your TM6 using the high heat mode. There are some beautiful, there's a salted caramel sauce and a few other things. There's a chocolate bourbon sauce. They make fantastic presents or fantastic little condiments to pop out when you have friends over and take out with you. So there are some really, really good things there. Chelsea buns are a favorite from your childhood. You need to make them, Beck. Have you ever made them before? I'd love to know. Has anybody made the Chelsea buns? I have also made, there is a really nice one on Cookie Doo. They are called something like apple and custard scrolls, but they are absolutely delicious. Oh, there you go. Beck has made them. Fantastic. Beautiful. All right. I've only got a minute left here on my custard, and I'm just going to quickly check on my brownies and the cinnamon ones as well. Oh, some in the oven. I love it. Everyone's making sweets. All right, I'm going to check my blondies. Oh, yum. Beautiful. Now, the thing when you're making blondies or brownies, because they're a very gooey, fudgy sort of a mixture, and you want to keep that same consistency once they're done. Oh, I love that. After I said with the recipe, you made them. Great, because I didn't get time, Shannon, so I'm glad you did. That's fantastic. Often when you're done, they will seem like they're not quite cooked. These ones, again, they feel like you could even put them in for a bit longer. That's just how brownies go, because when they actually set, you need them to be nice and fudgy in the middle. No worries at all, Beck. Let us know how you go. Thanks for jumping on. So don't stress if they seem like they're still a little bit soft in the middle and they're starting to cook on the outside. Don't overcook them, just take them out. And once they cool, they will just go nice and fudgy. Same things with the chocolate ones. So don't stress. That is them all done. How quick. If you're after something nice and quick that only took a couple of minutes to mix up, throw them in the oven. And in 40 odd minutes, I've got custard, condensed milk, a set of brownies, blondies coming out of the oven, and we're all ready to go. So I have some plain old custard here. Now, my kids love this. They absolutely love custard. They will eat this cold in their lunchbox the next day. They will eat it hot. They'll eat it for dessert, for breakfast, for anything. They absolutely love it. But I like to make things a little bit special. So I'm going to grab some choc chips. Now, there is a Harlequin custard recipe on Cookie Doo. I mentioned it earlier. It is developed by Matt Sinclair. You basically do this, but now you take half of the mixture out and you only add chocolate to half. And then you have a vanilla custard plus a chocolate custard, and then you can layer them, swirl them, and serve them like a really fancy dessert. So that is something you can definitely do. My kids will just take this in their lunchbox, so they certainly don't need it to be all fancy. But this will go a bit like a chocolate yo-go when I make this cold in the fridge tomorrow. So now that I'm done, I'm just going to finish it. And I don't want that chocolate getting too hot. So I'm just going to turn the speed around to speed 6 with no heat on. I'm going to let it get going and mix for a couple of seconds. That was 10 seconds. You can hear as it gets going, as the chocolate's starting to sort of melt out of it. If you want this to look darker and richer, you can definitely use a dark chocolate, and it will give you a nicer color. I'm going to add a little bit more chocolate into that because it doesn't look like it's gone very, very rich yet. What happens when I don't measure? Another handful of chocolate in. I'm going to give that a second mix now, and then I'll be ready to serve. Now, just while this is releasing the lid, there is one exciting thing that will be hitting our mix shops very, very soon. I'm going to get mine out. Oh, so you guys can see this. Now, these are called, and I'm not very good at pronouncing them, they are a French dessert, cannoli. These are a French dessert, French pastry, but they serve them in some French places over here, something like a French bakery or something, they have them, or a French cafe or restaurant, but they have them certainly over in France. and they are like a custard consistency inside with like a crusty outside shell. So they're these little things. So we now will not now, consultants have got them at this stage, but we will be bringing these to the mix shop along with some recipes for them. So right now, all of our consultants are making these and having a little bit of fun with them. You might be seeing them throughout Facebook. Once these hit, as you guys start to get them, I'd love to see if any of you go on and cook them. Let me know how they are. But they're a pretty cool little thing to be making at home. Again, not something that most people would be making. The batter is pretty easy. You mix it all up in the Thermomix and you let it sit for 1 or 2 days. So it sits and then you pop it into the tray and straight into the oven. And that's how you get this sort of custardy consistency on the outside and then crunchy on the inside, and crunchy on the outside. But this will be those. So they're coming to the mix shop soon. Keep your eye out for them. They will be another little sweet that you can make. And this is our chocolate custard. I'm going to put a little bit into this bowl just so you can see the consistency of it. And this will go like yogo tomorrow. Beautiful chocolate yogo. So there it is, nice and thick. That's it. You can eat it with a spoon. You can make it a little bit more runny and they can have it in a pouch or however you want to have it. But that will cool like a beautiful chocolate yogo in the fridge. And I know exactly what's in it. There was a little bit of sugar. There was a little bit of chocolate. But the basics are all pretty good whole ingredients. I've got my own milk going in, eggs going in from the chooks. You've got some really good things going in there. And if you were to go and buy a yogo from the shop, I guarantee it's not going to have much of that stuff. There's lots of flavors and colors and preservatives and sugars that go into any of those sort of snacks. So being able to make them at home will make a big difference. Plus, if you think about the cost of this, it doesn't cost very much to make. And that would make up a heap of little yogo pouches. So a really cool way to make a fun little sweet that might suit the kids, or even some nice chocolate custard to serve up. Remember that dark chocolate will give it a much richer, darker, chocolatey looking to look at. Otherwise, you can add some white chocolate in and you can, again, keep it like a nice light custard, but it will be white chocolate. There's lots you can do with just that basic custard recipe. But that is our all things sweet. So before we finish, I need you all to pop into the chat box. What was your favorite thing you saw tonight? And what are you going to go and cook? We want you to leave a little bit inspired. I hope that you have learned something. And I hope that you have taken something away that you are going to do. So pop it into the chat box. Elizabeth's going to make the blondies. Fantastic. What else? Shannon has already, she's ahead of the game. She's already made the Chelsea buns, so that's great. Or condensed milk and blondies a go. And the OMG slice, absolutely make the OMG slice. It is amazing. Beautiful. And thank you, Shannon, for jumping on. She was on tonight to help out there in the chat box, which is awesome. Krista's going to try the blondies. Fantastic. We have another session running next Wednesday night, and I'll be setting the themes for August very soon. Is there something in particular you guys would like to learn, that you would like to see? Pop it into the chat or send me a message anytime through the week. If there's something that you really want to learn to do in your Thermomix or you need a bit of inspiration with, just send me a message or let your consultant know, and we can run a night based around that. I'm always on the hunt for different themes and different things to keep you guys going. I think a bread making class, absolutely. We've ran a few of these in person. We haven't done one online for a little while, but they are great. Making bread is such a good thing. All right, bread making. It's on the calendar for August. There's lots we can do with bread. I'm going to finish our recording.